Good morning, Subhadra Mahajan. Thank you very much for joining us for this short Q&A session about your beautiful film, Second Chance. So thank you very much in the first place to share that with the world and with us as an audience. We
Thank you.
watched
Thank
we watched the movie and of course there's many things to be said about it, but the basically the story is a girl, an urban girl, upper class, finds herself in a Himalayan village where she is taken care of by the people that take care of the family summer hideout or summer vacation place. Uh,
you.
she finds herself alone, pregnant, and ashamed. And I would like to start from there because it's not very explicit in the movie, but the relation between Nia, the girl, and her family, who is distant and only every now and then pops up in the movie through a telephone contact. But that seems to be a crucial thing that most people in Europe fail to understand how important family is for relations, for people's well-being, for people's identity in India. So maybe give us a little insight in how you construed this relationship between Nia and her family.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that observation. So, the character of Nia is actually comes from a similar class and generation as myself. So we are like what you call the millennials, the younger millennials or Gen Z of India. And from the more privileged class, because as you know, India has huge economic divides right across the spectrum. A few very rich people who live in the cities, and a lot whole lot of rural poor in different parts of India. But Nia belongs to, okay, not the super rich, but probably she's privileged enough. She's never had anything to lack for in her life materialistically. She comes from a Delhi, she comes from a city like New Delhi, which is pretty much one of the most modern parts of India, at least on the surface of it. And it's been my observation that, especially and it's maybe COVID had something to do with it, but even before that, we're living in a time where we're increasingly isolated, especially in the big cities, even from amongst our own family members. And Nia comes from the kind of a family where her father's really busy making money, money means a lot to him. He's quite a businessman. That's my, character in his
Mm.
head. And the mother's is like a bit of a social butterfly. That's quite common in Delhi as well. And they're so busy with their own little worlds that they've kind of neglected their child, not materialistically. Materialistically, she's had everything that she's ever wanted. But I think emotionally, they've not been the most present parents.
Mm.
And this does affect her in the sense she's not, she doesn't really have anyone to confide in. She's not close to either of them to be able to tell them that, hey, I'm pregnant and I don't know how to deal with it medically or emotionally or, on any level, because she's just not close enough to them. As well as, pregnancy, getting for an unmarried girl to get pregnant in India, it comes with a lot of social taboos because I mean, that there's a whole discussion there, but in a nutshell, we're quite a conservative and a patriarchal society. So sex is not spoken about very openly. And I mean, young women getting pregnant is like a big shame, a big taboo.
You even seem to gently mock a bit the class that she comes from by making these suggestions that her professional life should be in creating a line of vegan nightwear or curating tea, which is quite off the wall in a sense, but it is probably representative for the kind of class she belongs to.
Absolutely. She doesn't really need to do anything to earn money. She has generational wealth. You can see that from this fabulous summer home which is just lying there. They've not visited for 10 years, and it's so she has generational ancestral wealth, and it's pretty obvious that she doesn't need to do anything to earn money. So there's just these like silly little business ventures which one tries to do to appear like they're doing something really fancy and really like out of the box, like, okay, not just vegan food, but what about vegan clothes? And really, tea is popular in India, like the chai tea, but like off late, over the past few years, infusions, especially the fancier the infusion, the more exotic the flower that you infuse the tea with. So I just thought of like a couple of these, not real jobs, but just things to make you appear to be doing some new and cool business venture.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, we all know, especially by the end of the film, that her passion does lie in dance. Whether she's very good at it or whether she's going to pursue it, we don't know. But
Yeah.
that is where her passion lies and has always, been.
Now, Nia starts out as a lonely, very isolated almost, but lonely figure. And throughout the film, she moves from loneliness to community, or at least to belonging to a small community. Is
Mm-hmm.
that one of the basic lines that you want to put forward, that every single human person needs that belonging, needs those connections to other humans to exist in a sense?
100%, it is one of the themes of the film, and it was a very conscious decision because, again, it ties back to your first question where I answered that, young people in cities, not just in India, but I think in all parts of the world, are growing increasingly isolated. But as humans, we are social animals, and we require, it's one of our basic needs is that we require community. And thematically, I think Second Chance is primarily about a young woman, a journey of healing. But the second most important theme in Second Chance, always from me from the beginning, has been unlikely friendships. Because in a place like India, because there are so many divides of class and caste, if you've heard about the caste system in
Mhm.
India as well, there's so many divides of class and caste and generation and rural and urban that, we really constrict the idea of who our friends will be. And so Nia probably in the beginning of the film will never imagine that she'd be friends with, this old 70-year-old lady who can't read and write, who's lived in the village all her life, and this, little irritating little 7-year-old boy who's, completely lives on a different planet from her. But they end up being her closest friends and seeing her through this period to emerge, and give herself a second chance. And I also must add that I feel that she gently helps them as well towards, you know, moving past things in their lives.
Now, to create that link or that relationship, Raju has to leave, it seems. It's a theme that I see recurring in the current Indian cinema about women. They fully become persons soon as the men leave the room. You need a female space for the women to be fully personal, in a sense. Was that also a conscious decision on your part to make him move out of the story?
Yes, see, because Raju is the actual caretaker. He's the one who's paid by her father to look after that house and that estate. And he's obviously, he knows Nia, even though she came last just 10 years back, and he knows the family pretty well. So it's his job. He's going to be the face of the person interacting with her. And only once he's gone is she going to be able to come face to face with Bhini, the old lady. And also, with the father, because Raju is Sunny's father, so without the strict father being around, the child can be up to more naughty tricks and try to get this, stranger in the house to somehow play cricket or tiffy, or play with him and
Yeah.
become a friend. So the primary was to get, I mean, the idea was to get Raju out of the equation. And yes, it turned out to become a more feminine space. But let me add that Sunny is also a crucial part of this triangle, and he is a boy. Um, but more
Not a
than feminine,
man.
yeah, he's not just a man, he's Superman, he thinks he's Superman. But more than a feminine space, I think it becomes a space of nurturing amongst these three people. Because if you see very carefully, they take turns looking after one another and becoming each other's mothers. So even though Sunny is a boy, he has a lot of nurturing qualities in him, whether it's with the kitten or whether it's with protecting Nia. So
Yeah.
yes.
You talk about the triangular relation in the sense between Nia, Bemi, and then Sunny. Uh, I see a fourth main character aside of Raju, which is the environment, the Pir Panjal, the Himalayan mountains. They play a very important role, but am I right to say that there's two faces to the mountains? There's the mountains as they appear and as they function towards Nia, the urban girl visiting the mountains, and then there are the mountains as they are a dominant character in the lives of the local community. The old woman, the whole neighborhood. It's a
Yes.
different mountain for these two different characters.
I don't know if you could say that it's a different mountain. The mountains are definitely a huge character in the film, and I think a lot of Nia's healing comes from nature, from spending time alone in nature and understanding certain things about herself and her position through nature. Whereas, for the local people, the characters in the village, the mountains are very much a part of their life, and we especially see this through the character of the old shepherd. You
Mhm.
know, because even in the first scene we see him bring something from the forest which can like cure sicknesses, a bark from a tree, very very natural. In the second time that he appears, we see him actually express his distress about what's going on in the mountains, the environmental degradation, and what it might lead to, which is so I'm also from the region where this film was shot, so I'm also a person of that region, and for all of us, our entire community, we are really, really concerned about climate change and about environmental degradation, because the way we are seeing the impact of this in the mountains that we live in is extremely frightening, and it's very in your face. It doesn't shield, or it's we're facing it on a daily basis every season and every year. Yes, and so that definitely the mountains are a huge character, but it's interesting to hear your observation how it's a different character for the urban person, for Nia, and it's a different character for the villagers. I'm happy to see that you have this interpretation. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Another question that I wanted to ask is one of the underlying questions that I feel watching the movie is the question, what is love? And again, it seems to be answered, or it comes from a double angle. One is, what is love for the upper class urban girl that Nia is, and her friends or former boyfriend having a party, or the actual boyfriend that abandoned her, that visits her, that kind of urban love, which is a interpersonal feeling, and it's romantic, and then you get left behind, all of that drama that comes with it. And then there's the relationship between Bime and the old shepherd, which is apparently quite clearly a kind of love, but it's highly codified, and it is set in a very tight community, so they cannot really express it, but it's very tangible there. So, and you seem to choose for the second kind of love. Your treatment of that kind of rural codified feelings seems to be much warmer than the urban romantic quest that our generation or your generation is after.
Well, yes, yes. I mean, I don't want to be judgmental. Everybody's open to their own interpretation of love and the urban kind of love that you have rightly put your finger on. is also necessary. But what I find really, interesting is because I'm a person from both worlds. I've lived in the cities ever since I turned 17. I came to Mumbai for college. And before that, my entire life was in the mountains. So I know both worlds really well. And of course, even I don't spend all my time in the city anymore. I keep going back few months a year, so I can see both. And for me, you're right. I mean, this feeling of love that the Himalayan people have is a more kind of a universal or um what would be the right word, a kind of a love which has a larger perspective. So on one hand, you're right about the codified love between Bhimi and the old shepherd, because but that's just one aspect of it, and it's codified because of course she's an old rural lady and she's a widow. So it's considered that once you reach a certain age, after that you shouldn't fall in love. But of course, she and the shepherd are of a similar age, and he admires her so much. He's constantly complimenting her and flirting with her, and she might like him back as well. So even but the flirtations and everything they exchange has to be extremely, extremely subtle and gentle. Uh, it can't be the kind of love that, let's say, Nia's boyfriend will express to her, or the ex-boyfriend will express to his new wife. That's very different. So there's two completely stark different types of loves. But I think what I've tried to do in the film is also just try to understand the a more universal type of love which leads to Nia's healing, and on the idea of love and happiness not just being selfish and coming for oneself, but also from a larger perspective of the moment you try to do something for someone else, whether you know them very well or whether you love them very much or not. And I can try to explain this a little better with an example. Like the first time Nia actually feels a little happy in the film herself is after she makes that effort to go and fetch Sunny from school, and then he's shouted at by the teacher, so he's very depressed, and she steps out of her own crisis, of her own depression and her own trauma with the pregnancy, and does a really stupid little dance on the side of the mountain to make him laugh. And that's actually pretty much one of the first steps of her healing. And it gets better and better as she becomes friends with Sunny and helps the lonely little boy understand a few things about life, like if he wants to reach the moon, for example, he should try to be an astronaut and not Superman. And it goes much further once she also much later understands Bhimi's tragic past, and also tries in her own way to help Bhimi lift her out of that and push her towards a gentle second chance, maybe at love with the shepherd.
And she in the final part of the movie, she wants to give back, and she does that in a way that we city people do. That she buys a ticket
Yeah,
and expresses that, and I mean, she gives back from what she has and what she can. Does
yeah,
that make her? Does that mean that she becomes part of that community, that small community, and or because at the same time she is departing, she
yeah.
becomes part, but she leaves, and
Mhm.
as she leaves, she wants to leave something behind. That's how I read the final
Yeah.
part of the movie.
Yeah, while I was writing the script, I had a few comments that, okay, so before she leaves, why does she do these very materialistic
Mm.
things? Why does she, because she's privileged and she can afford 25,000 rupees per annum to put in Sunny's account. She does that. And because she can afford bus tickets, so she buys the bus tickets. But do you think that's really the only thing Nia has done for them? I mean, Bhimi can easily afford those bus tickets, but she's so shy and she has so much trauma of guilt with her being responsible for, as she says, in a way, some way responsible for her daughter's death, and being responsible for bringing Sunny up, and also like the social stigma of like not having a romance beyond a certain age. She can easily buy those tickets for herself, she can afford it. But if somebody buys it and gifts it to her and tells the most important person in her life, Sunny, that it's your duty to get her there. That is the gift. It's not the monetary act of
Yeah.
buying a ticket. And the same thing for Sunny. I mean, Nia jolly well better invest in his education if she has that kind of money to spare. But the real gift for me is actually opening his eyes more towards, you know, what an astronaut is, and not bursting that bubble of, nobody really lives on the moon. Like, she never says that, she never
Yeah.
says, get it, like that's just something somebody told you. She doesn't kind of burst his bubble. She just gently shows him that, okay, okay, you want to go to the moon, I understand, your mother lives there or whatever, but maybe better than Superman might be this thing called an astronaut, and that's something you can actually work towards.
Mm.
So I think Nia's contribution to them is, of course, monetary on the face, but there are many other aspects to it as well.
Yeah. Okay, Subhadra, final
Mhm,
question. Uh,
mhm.
when and why did you decide to make it a black and white movie?
Great. I love that this is the final question, because usually it's the first question in every question and answer session. So thank you. So for me, from the beginning, even when I conceived this as just as an idea, like a log line, like not even written one page, it was always a black and white film. And I think it's because I was very certain that the story of the central character, Nia, is going to be one of finding light at the end of a very long and dark tunnel. In the beginning, when she begins, she's so messed up and depressed, and uh, standing on that mountain, at the mountainscape where she tears the paper, she may as well just jump. It's she's in that much of a dark space. And whereas towards the end of the film, after a lot of ups and downs, she reaches a place of light and energy that is able to give her life a second chance. So it's the journey of light at the end of a long and dark tunnel, which I thought would be told beautifully in black and white, especially in this kind of yin yang of the natural world of the Himalayas, because there's a very Eastern philosophy that binds the backbone of this film, which is that light cannot exist without darkness, and darkness cannot exist without light, and we have to accept that both of them are one part of life, and we have to be able to move on. So I think that's why it's a black and white film.
Thank you very much for all your reflections on the movie. This was your first chance at a feature movie, and you made it a wonderful movie. Thank you very much for that. So you don't need a second chance, but we do wait for your second feature film, and we will be looking out for it very much. Thank you very much, Subhadra.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.